For over 20 years, people have been buzzing about what really went down behind Ashton Kutcher's rise to fame. Beneath that signature grin and his funny guy charm, there's a whole tangled web of hidden stories, tough times, and dark secrets that Hollywood kept hush-hush. But what finally pushed this seemingly carefree actor to open up? With court documents coming to light and witnesses stepping up, the true story of Ashton Kutcher's 25-year journey is way more complicated than anyone ever thought. A birth that would forever alter the lives of two brothers was the beginning of everything that would happen. She had no idea that she was going to be having twins when Diane Kutcher went to the hospital to give birth the morning she went there. As a matter of fact, she didn't even learn about it until 5 minutes after she had given birth to her first child, Ashton. It was at that moment when the medical professionals broke the news to her that she was going to have another child. When Michael Kutcher was born, he weighed only 4 pounds, and the medical staff was immediately concerned about his weight. As a result of the issues from the birth, Michael did not receive an adequate amount of oxygen, which ultimately led to the diagnosis of cerebral palsy. Over the course of their childhood in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, the Kutcher family adopted a courageous and optimistic attitude toward Michael's condition. They chose to highlight the characteristics that made each brother special rather than dwelling on their shortcomings. Beginning at an early age, Ashton displayed an extraordinary level of loyalty to his twin brother, Michael, by refusing to attend sleepovers unless Michael was also present. However, despite his protective attitude, Ashton did carry a profound sense of guilt with him at all times. He was concerned about his own health, particularly when he considered the difficulties that his brother was experiencing. When the brothers were in 8th grade, they would be put through the most difficult test of their relationship. Michael began exhibiting symptoms that were consistent with the flu. Nevertheless, the evaluation revealed that he was suffering from viral myocarditis, a condition that caused his heart to grow in a manner that was potentially harmful. The devastating news that Michael had only 3 to 4 weeks to live was delivered to them by the medical professionals. Ashton would remember what transpired after that for many years to come. During the time that Michael was standing next to his hospital bed, his heart stopped beating. During a moment of panic, Ashton did something extraordinary. He surrendered his own heart to his brother. He was under the impression that the fact that they were twins meant that it was possible that they would be identical. He was willing to give up everything in order to achieve his goal. The good news is that within a day, a heart that had been donated by a person who had been involved in an accident in another state became available, and Michael was able to successfully gain a transplant. The two brothers' lives were altered as a result of that near-death experience. While Ashton retained the emotional weight of the experience into his adult life, Michael went on to become an advocate for organ donation and handicap rights. Michael subsequently became an ambassador for these causes. An emotional foundation was established for him that would influence his decisions in the future. This foundation was constructed by the guilt of being the healthy twin, along with an overwhelming thankfulness for his brother's survival. However, just when the Kutcher family believed that they had weathered their most significant storm, they were confronted with yet another form of difficulty. In the course of his senior year of high school, Ashton was involved in an incident that would ultimately result in a significant transformation in his life. As the image of the picture-perfect golden boy began to crumble, no one could have predicted that this accident would inadvertently propel him into the spotlight of Hollywood stardom. The question is, what exactly took place on that tragic night that transformed a kid who had always had perfect grades into a felon overnight? To what extent did it bring him directly to the opportunity of his life? Ashton Kutcher's life was radically transformed as a result of a straightforward scheme that contained the intention of stealing some exam answers. Together with his cousin, he broke into Cedar Rapids, Washington High School, which resulted in the activation of a quiet alarm that prompted the police to respond to the location. When Ashton's stepfather received the phone call informing him of his arrest, his answer was brief but heartbreaking. "Have a good night," followed by the sound of the phone hanging up. Ashton was sentenced to 3 years of probation and received 180 hours of community service as a consequence. The penalties came quickly and were severe. The promising future he had been looking forward to was abruptly shattered when he was expelled from the National Honor Society, forbidden from participating in school athletics, and dumped by his girlfriend shortly before prom. The arrest that Ashton received signaled the beginning of a period of defiance for him. At the University of Iowa, he was kicked out of his apartment due to his loud parties and disorderly behavior, which ultimately led to his displacement. A number of evenings came to an end with blackouts, and the mornings frequently started with a sense of bewilderment regarding what had occurred the previous night. But destiny had other things in store for him. An unexpected recommendation was made to Ashton by a talent scout during a fortuitous encounter that took place at the Airliner Bar in Iowa City. The scout suggested that Ashton could consider pursuing a career in modeling. The Fresh Faces of Iowa modeling competition was one that Ashton entered, and he ended up winning it. He had nothing left to lose. Being victorious prompted him to make a courageous choice. He decided to abandon his studies in biochemical engineering in order to seek a career in modeling in New York City. In addition to her height of 6 feet 2 inches, Ashton's remarkable appearance attracted the attention of a number of modeling agencies while she was attending the International Modeling and Talent Association convention. Ashton was able to earn a contract with Next Modeling Agency despite the fact that he did not successfully win the competition. Within a short period of time, he became the face of key advertisements, such as those for Zoo York and Calvin Klein. In spite of this, Ashton's aspirations extended beyond the runway. When he was given the opportunity to try out for a new comedy sitcom in Los Angeles, he decided to take a chance that would alter the course of his life forever. He was fortunate enough to earn roles in 2 different shows on the same day, which was a stroke of good luck. The first was a television drama called Wind on Water, which was about cowboy surfers, and the second was a show called That 70s Show, which was not very well known. Ashton made the decision to go with the role of Michael Kelso, a character that was developed specifically to play into Ashton's innate comedic timing. He did this by trusting his instincts and declining the surfer drama, which was canceled after only 6 episodes. His major break would come in the form of this part. In comparison to his subsequent paychecks, his first compensation on the show was very low. Yet, it was the beginning of his ascent to prominence in the Hollywood industry. However, when Ashton's career began to take off, the more negative aspects of the entertainment world started to become more apparent. A short time later, the young model-turned-actor found himself in the position of navigating muddy waters. A new project that was going to be dubbed Punk'd started to take shape. Initially, it was just a straightforward concept for a prank program, but it quickly became a contentious issue that threatened to ruin everything that Ashton had worked so hard to have accomplished. Could it be that his endeavor to change reality television turns out to be his most significant error? Beyond the pranks, what started out as a show with a hidden camera called Harassment rapidly became the worst nightmare that MTV could have ever imagined. James Ryan and Lori-Ann Ryan made their reservation at the Hard Rock Hotel in Las Vegas in January of 2002 with the intention of taking a vacation that would allow them to relax and unwind. They were instead confronted with a horrific scene. The room in which they were staying appeared to be a crime scene, complete with a lifeless body that was covered in blood throughout the room. During the time that they were attempting to run, actors disguising themselves as security guards prevented their escape, and another actor posing as a paramedic entered the room. Kutcher and his production crew had hoped that the frightened couple would respond with laughter, but they were not successful in achieving that goal. Catalyst, Kutcher's production business, and MTV were both named as defendants in a major lawsuit that was filed against them for $10 million. For a variety of reasons, including violation of privacy, emotional distress, and fraud, the Ryans filed a lawsuit. Prank-related legal difficulties were not something that MTV had to deal with for the first time. During the production of another show, Dude, This Sucks, 2 adolescent girls had filed a lawsuit against the network after witnessing them being sprayed with human feces. The lawsuit was filed just 8 months earlier. Despite this, Kutcher and his team declined to abandon the idea that they had been working on. It was determined that rather than playing pranks on unsuspecting members of the general public, they would target famous people. This change resulted in the reimagining of Punk'd, and the new version of the show made its debut in March of 2003, with a memorable first episode featuring Justin Timberlake. During the prank, Timberlake was seen arriving at his residence to discover that his belongings had been taken away by federal officers due to a supposed tax bill of $900,000. Timberlake came so close to breaking down in tears as a result of the hoax, which created what Time magazine would later rate as the 3rd greatest reality TV moment in the history of the medium from that point forward. The show was a huge success right away. There was a 55% rise in viewing from the first season to the second season, which resulted in 7.4 million viewers. In the meantime, Kutcher's production business, Catalyst, which he had co-founded with Jason Goldberg when he was only 22 years old, was proving to be more than simply a platform for pranks. Ashton had come to the realization at an early stage that producing could bring in significantly greater financial rewards than performing alone, and that his astute business sense would serve him well in ways that seemed unexpected. Not only did Punk'd become a hit, but it also developed into a full-blown cultural phenomenon within its own right. Every time someone found themselves in an incredible circumstance, they would ask themselves, "Am I being punked?" This phrase eventually became a common part of everyday speech. Punk'd and Ashton's place in the annals of pop culture history were both cemented by the realization that the concept of Ashton possibly being nearby with a hidden camera crew became a running joke across the United States. On the other hand, Ashton was dealing with a horrible, real-life incident that would haunt him for years to come, at the same time as Punk'd was at its point of maximum success. On the 21st of February in the year 2001, a date that was supposed to be casual turned out to be something altogether more frightening. Ashley Ellerin, a fashion student who was 22 years old, was supposed to be picked up by Ashton for their first night out together. Upon his arrival at her residence in the Hollywood Hills, he knocked on the door, but there was no response. When he looked through the window, he noticed what appeared to be stains on the floor that were caused by red wine. He departed, presuming that she had left since he was running behind schedule. The following day, he discovered that the spots were not caused by alcohol. The gruesome murder of Ashley had been committed by Michael Gargiulo, who would subsequently become known as the Hollywood Ripper. It was in a state of panic that Ashton called the police and told them, "My fingerprints are on the door." The incident lingered with him for years, and eventually led to his testifying in court 18 years later. Kutcher's comprehensive testimony during the trial was essential in establishing a clear timeline of events that led up to Ashley's murder. When additional doubts were raised regarding the events that took place that night, however, things took a turn for the worst over the course of several years. The girlfriend of Kutcher's co-star on that 70s show, Danny Masterson, Chrissy Bixler, wrote a mysterious remark on social media, which came as a startling turn of events. She asserted, "Did you forget that I was present all along? At the time of your call to Danny on February 21, 2001, you were using the speakerphone technology. All of it was heard by me." Despite the fact that these assertions have not been proven, they put a shadow over a period of Kutcher's life that was already a terribly terrible time of his life. The timing of these charges coincided with other controversies involving the cast of that 70s show, which resulted in the creation of a web of events that would eventually have an effect on both Kutcher's professional accomplishments and his personal life. When Kutcher was going through this challenging period, he immersed himself in his work, which may have been a way for him to deal with the trauma. One of the most significant turning points in his career was the production of Just Married, in which he starred alongside Brittany Murphy. With a worldwide box office gross of more than $100 million, the romantic comedy was a big success. In addition, his on-screen connection with Murphy resulted in a brief romance that took place off-screen. Nevertheless, Kutcher was subjected to criticism despite his huge success. For each of the 3 films that he had released in 2003, he received a nomination for Worst Actor at the 24th Annual Golden Raspberry Awards. In the years that followed the tragedy that occurred with Ellerin, Kutcher began exhibiting symptoms that he desired to have a more significant effect that went beyond the realm of entertainment. The fact that he had personally experienced both loss and violence seemed to be the driving force behind his increased commitment to combating exploitation and abuse. After what began as a personal encounter with sorrow, he eventually found himself in an unexpected new chapter of his life. This new chapter carried him away from the spotlight of Hollywood and into the world of Silicon Valley. However, how did an actor who is known for playing characters with a low IQ become one of the most successful investors in the technology industry? While his Hollywood career was still prospering, Kutcher was quietly creating an empire in Silicon Valley. He was living in Silicon Valley. Because of his initial interest in developing innovations, he went on to have a prosperous career in venture capital. His exceptional ability to anticipate the next big thing was proved by his early investments in businesses such as Uber, Airbnb, Skype, and Spotify. Although his projected net worth of $200 million reveals a portion of the story, the true significance of his technological endeavors extends beyond the financial advantages they have brought him. It was the development of Thorn, digital defenders of children, that represented the most significant turning point in his professional line of work. Kutcher's growing awareness of the darker side of technology led to the formation of the group, which is dedicated to combating the trafficking of children for sexual purposes. Thorn was the driving force behind the development of Spotlight, a powerful piece of software that assists law enforcement in identifying victims of human trafficking and locating those responsible for the crime. The impact has been significant. By the year 2021, Spotlight had detected 3,977 victims and assisted in the rescue of a total of 24,366 victims since the software was first released. In a number of unexpected ways, Kutcher's personal life and his technological endeavors crossed with one another. Mila Kunis disclosed to Jimmy Kimmel that Kutcher would encourage her to test out a variety of dating apps, ostensibly for the purpose of conducting investment research when they were in the early stages of their relationship. Kunis laughed and said, "He coerces me into going to all of these websites. Can you tell me about the gay version of Tinder? This is Grindr." It was in 2017 when this combination of personal and professional interest in technology became a distinguishing characteristic of their relationship. "I've been on Grindr," she announced. Kutcher's activism for children reached new heights when he spoke before Congress on the terrible realities of child exploitation. He was passionate about protecting children. During his emotional testimony, he described the horrible experience of seeing footage of a child of the same age as his own being abused by an American man. He said that the experience was horrifying. He underlined that while it generally took federal authorities years to hunt down traffickers, Thorn's algorithms could identify them in as little as 3 weeks, or even 3 days. This was a significant difference. As a result of this accomplishment, Thorn experienced quick expansion, and it today makes use of more than 100 individuals who are committed to safeguarding children from sexual assault. The following year, in 2022, Kutcher demonstrated his dedication even further by participating in the New York City Marathon and raising more than $1 million for the cause. Additionally, he has been important in collaborating with over 2,700 law enforcement organizations that are currently using the technology that Thorn has developed. The majority of people were unaware of how advanced Kutcher's strategy was when it came to investing in technology. Together with Ron Burkell and Guy Wary, he established A-grade investments, and in just 6 years, they were able to grow a fund that was initially worth $30 million into one that was worth $250 million. This achievement resulted in the establishment of Sound Ventures, a subsequent fund that has provided financial support to more than 60 businesses, operating in a variety of sectors. Kutcher's engagement was what differentiated him from other celebrity investors in the industry. Not only did he write checks, but he also immersed himself in the world of technology. By gaining knowledge of industry trends, going to developer conferences, and cultivating contacts with those who founded companies. His debut as a guest on Shark Tank in 2015 was not merely a public relations ploy. Rather, it demonstrated that he had a profound understanding of the foundations of business. It was unexpected that Kutcher's extensive grasp of technology began to have an impact on the parts he played in films. When he took over Charlie Sheen's position on 2.5 Men, he negotiated for his character to be a tech entrepreneur rather than the conventional playboy. This would have been a significant change from the previous role. It was because of this minor adjustment that his representation became more authentic and more accurate of his actual experiences in Silicon Valley. His investments were also concentrated on businesses that had the potential to have both a positive impact on society and a positive return on investment. Kutcher has also invested in businesses in the fields of sustainable technology, healthcare innovation, and financial inclusion in addition to Thorn. One noteworthy investment was Neighborly, which is a platform that allows users to invest in municipal bonds in order to support community projects in their immediate area. His skills in both the entertainment industry and technology led to the creation of creative content ventures. According to Crackle, he was the producer of the show Going From Broke, which was about assisting young people in overcoming their school debt and received over 12 million views. Through this series, he was able to blend his talent for storytelling with his enthusiasm for education and financial technology. Nevertheless, in spite of all of his achievements, Kutcher was subjected to increasing pressure to address a growing scandal. But his link to his old co-star Danny Masterson was now putting his credibility as a defender of abuse victims to the test. His work through Thorn won him widespread acclaim, but it was now being put to the test. At the time when Masterson was charged with sexual assault in 2023, the entertainment industry was keeping a careful eye on how Kutcher would react to the situation. At the beginning of the 21st century, 5 women came forward with allegations against Masterson, claiming that the assaults took place. Masterson had been a member of the Scientology cult since he was a child, and 3 of the women who accused him were fellow Scientologists. Testimonies that were unsettling were presented throughout the trial, which started in October of 2022. One of the victims, Chrissy Bixler, who had previously been Masterson's girlfriend, revealed detailed allegations of the abuse she had experienced. The evidence ultimately proved to be overwhelming, despite the fact that Masterson maintained his innocence and claimed that the claims were driven by attention-seeking. In the aftermath of the Me Too movement, Masterson was found guilty of sexually abusing 2 women. The conviction was handed out in May of 2023. Many of Kutcher's followers were taken aback by what transpired after that. They both sent character letters to the judge, asking for leniency in Masterson's sentence. Mila Kunis was also one of the people who wrote the letters. The letter that Kutcher sent to Masterson praised him as a person who should be looked up to and described him as being particularly honest and intentional. He concluded by writing, "While I acknowledge that Danny has been found guilty of 2 counts of sexual assault and that the victims seek justice, I hope my testimony about his character is considered during sentencing." He continued by stating that, "I don't believe he poses an ongoing threat to society, and it would be an additional injustice for his daughter to grow up without her father." These letters were met with a rapid and strong response from the general population. The advocacy work that Kutcher had done through Thorn, which had garnered him renown as a champion against sexual exploitation, suddenly appeared to be in conflict with his defense of a sexual predator who had been convicted under the law. While he was testifying before Congress about safeguarding victims, many people pointed up the inconsistency that existed between his testimony and his support for Masterson. A sentence of 30 years in prison was handed down to Masterson by the judge, notwithstanding their appeals. The public image of both Kutcher and Kunis was seriously damaged as a result of the aftermath from the character letters, which prompted them to release a video apology across their Instagram accounts. They indicated that the letters were prepared at the behest of Masterson's family, who wanted to provide a viewpoint on his character for the sake of sentence consideration. They put a strong emphasis on the fact that their intention was not to undermine the testimonies of the victims or to re-traumatize them. When the incident erupted, it was questioned whether Kutcher's attempts to combat human trafficking were genuine, or whether they were merely a calculated public relations ploy. At the beginning of the year 2024, Kutcher decided to de-emphasize his public appearances in order to concentrate on his investments in technology and his family life. Despite the fact that he received substantially less attention from the media, his work with Thorn persisted. The organization continued to fulfill its objective, with Spotlight continuing to assist law enforcement in locating and rescuing victims of human trafficking. In this day and age of the Me Too, the Masterson incident shed light on a complicated reality regarding friendships and loyalty in the entertainment industry. The difficult intersections that exist between personal ties and moral commitments were brought to light by Kutcher's decision to support Masterson, despite the fact that he had spent years working specifically to safeguard vulnerable individuals. Not because of opposition to his cause, but rather because of his own acts in favor of a friend, his reputation as an advocate for victims' rights, which he had built up over the course of more than a decade collaborating with Thorn, was put to the ultimate test. Even in modern times, Ashton Kutcher's legacy continues to be a mess. A tremendous transformation can be seen in his path from being a nuisance in Iowa to becoming a Hollywood star to becoming a tech investor. While it is undeniable that his work with Thorn has been of assistance to thousands of victims of human trafficking, the fact that he has shown support for Masterson raises questions about the boundaries of allegiance and the obligations that come with being an advocate for the rights of victims. The story of Ashton Kutcher serves as a reminder that even people who fight for justice can find themselves on the wrong side of history when personal attachments and moral imperatives come into conflict with one another. This is something that Hollywood is still coming to terms with, both in the past and in the present. Ashton Kutcher's career demonstrates how our decisions in times of crisis define us, showing how he went from being twin brothers who faced the initial obstacles of existence to becoming a successful businessman in Silicon Valley, then a Hollywood star, and finally battling real-world atrocities. Despite the fact that his advocacy work has been adversely affected by his support of Masterson, his group continues to save lives on a regular basis. Where does our moral compass come into conflict with our loyalty, and what price should we demand for it?